In this video, we're going to go to our US Presidents example, and we're going to replace the table view with a collection view. So let's get right to work. Let's drag in a generic view controller here, and let's put inside of that generic view controller a collection view right there. And now before I size that, I guess I want to now control drag from that navigation controller over to this new one and say this is going to become the root view controller. And let me create a segue from the view controller to this nav controller to say this is the show detail segue. All right, so now this is all hooked up the way I want it to be. Let's get it out of the way first. Let's move this one. And now we'll put this guy in its place. Now, I want this segue to have exactly the same identifier in what I've replaced here, so the code still works. All right, and now I'm going to delete that old view controller altogether. Okay, let's size the collection view so that it is the same size as the whole view. Go to this little icon and zeros all the way around to match parent dimensions. Great. Now, in order to use a collection view, I'm going to need to create a custom collection view cell. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to right click and I'm going to say new file, Swift file. I'm going to call this president cell, hit return, and we'll import UIKit. We'll make ourselves a class called president cell, and that's going to inherit from UI collection view cell. And the reason for this is so that I have a place to create outlets to the stuff in that cell, because I want to customize. I want to put widgets in here, and I need to be able to create outlets to those widgets. And okay, so now before we leave collection view here, let's go to the attributes inspector and let's set the cell size. Okay, now this is going to seem kind of random, but 85 by 107.67, and that's because the images for my presidents are those dimensions. Those are the proportions. And now I also want to have some section insets. I want to have 10 points all the way around. And notice what happens in the storyboard. You see how we're getting some margin now. Let me zoom in. Around the cells. So I want to do that to all 4 of the insets there. Okay, having done that, there is one more thing. Now, if you forget to do this, your program isn't going to work and you're going to scratch your head and say, what the heck? You need to go over here and you need to go to the size inspector, identity inspector. You need to go to the identity inspector here and say, okay, let's compile. I need this cell to be a specific type. It's not an ordinary collection view cell, generic collection view cell. It's now a president cell, the custom type that I've created. And this view, by the way, isn't going to be just a UI view controller. That is going to be my master view controller. Okay, so we're reusing the same controller that we had before. Oh, and now this warning over here is reminding me when I create a cell, I need to give it a reuse identifier. And let's see, cell, reuse identifier. And I'm going to call that president cell. Copy. And now back over to my master view controller. I'm going to make sure that I have that constant over here. So basically it's going to be president cell, and I'm going to now call that president cell identifier. Okay, now let's work on the code for the UI view controller. I don't want this anymore to be a table view controller. I want it just to be a view controller. And so now it's saying, well, then you can't override, if you're not a table view controller, you can't override these things. But I delete the keyword override, and now it should compile mostly fine. Okay, now, instead of being a table view controller, I want to be a collection view controller. And now let me show you how we can use extensions that we've recently learned about. And I can say, well, I'd like to be a UI collection view data source. And by the way, I'd like to be a master view controller. I'd like to be a UI collection view delegate as well. So now we're not going to be a table view delegate, we're going to be a collection view delegate. And so change that to collection. And over here I want collection view did select item at, and I'm just going to move this code down. And over here it's going to complain. It says, look, you don't conform to the protocol. Do you want to add protocol stubs? Sure, let's do that. And you notice number of items in section, cell for item at index path, very much like what we did on the table view data source. So let's go copy all of the, well, here, let's just cut that comment, and we'll put it down here and change it to collection view data source. And now basically we want the same guts of these functions as we had for table views. So this one, and I like to do these alphabetically, so I'm going to move this down. Anyway, the number of items in section is the president's list count, just as it had been with the table view. And the cell for row at index path now becomes very similar, but we'll have to make a couple of changes here. But let's get rid of that function stub. And you see, by creating extensions, I'm able to put this code over in a different section of the file. And these special mark:\_ comments give me the separation and the titles here in this little drop down that lets me navigate the class quickly. But having extensions also further divides out the code, so I'm looking at a smaller unit of code as I'm trying to understand what's going on here. Okay, it's complaining about the DQ. Well, first of all, I don't have a table view. I now have a collection view. But the collection view DQ is renamed just slightly. It's reuse identifier with reuse identifier. Okay, so let's indent that a bit. Okay. Now, the next thing it's complaining about is, hey, look, we don't have image view, we don't have, cell doesn't have an image view, it doesn't have a text label. What I really have here, when I DQ a cell from the storyboard, I want to be DQing one of these things, a president cell. And now let's further put some widgets inside of here. What I'd like an image view for starters. So this is the image view. Let's go drag it onto that cell, and let's size it to exactly the size of the cell. And let's set auto layout constraints within the cell, 0, 0, 0, and I want this one also to be 0. Add 4 constraints. Now, in order to talk to that image view in the master view controller, I need to be able to access an outlet on that cell. So first of all, I need to know, is that cell a president cell? So if I can cast that thing to a president cell, then maybe I have a chance of setting whatever other things. Now I don't have a label currently. We could go add one if we wanted to, but I just have an image view. But I should be able to go to the president cell and ask for its, well, there's where I need the outlet. I haven't created an outlet yet. See, my president cell has nothing in it. So in order to create an outlet, I go to the storyboard and I want to display the assistant editor. Now, if you're in automatic mode here, maybe you saw in class that the only thing that showed up for me in automatic mode was master view controller, but this time it's showing me president cell because I've selected a president cell over here. Oh, actually an image view. Oh, maybe, let's see. Anyway, automatic president cell. I want to display the president cell. Sometimes you have to go in and manually traverse to the right class and display it. But I want to control drag from this image view in here to create an outlet. So I control drag, and it says I'm going to call this portrait image view. Sometimes you have trouble control dragging from the right thing over here. You can always control drag from up here as well. So that works too. Okay, anyway, I've created an outlet for my image view. Now in my master view controller, I should be able then to access portrait image view. And let's see here. What error is it complaining about? Oh, it's not saying. Okay, that went away. All right, so let's run it and see if this works. So up it comes. Select a president to view more details. We go to the master side, and it's not working. What have we not set? Okay, so here we go back through and we need to double check now. All right, so what didn't we do? First of all, this is a master view controller. Okay, great. It has a collection view, and president cell. We've got the right identity there. Okay, in my master view controller, maybe it's time to set a breakpoint and see what is and isn't happening. So let's go back. Oh, yes. I forgot one of the most important things. And by the way, this is something that is going to catch you sometimes. My collection view doesn't have a delegate or a data source set to it. I need to control drag from the collection view up to the view controller and say, hey, I'd like to be the data source. And control drag, hey, I'd like to be the delegate. So now you've seen what it looks like when you forget one of the steps. I didn't wire up the data source and the delegate. Now it should display. Oh, okay, hit our breakpoint. Great. So we'll just resume. And there's our list of all the presidents. Okay. Now, you could also say, well, I've got the name of the president I'd like to put in there, and so we could go back to the storyboard. We could drag out a label, and we could put it on this image view, or above the image view. Let's zoom in. Let's make it the full width of the cell. And let's set our constants to 0, 0, and let's do 8 from the bottom. Add 3 constraints, and then on the label itself, let's go to the attributes inspector, and we will change the font to, let's do a caption 1 here, and let's center it, and let's say that it can auto shrink to a minimum font scale of tiny. Some of these names are long, and let's set a background of white, but with an alpha of 0.5 or so. And then it'll be semi-transparent and we'll see the name layered on top. Okay, that's my label, but in order to use that in the master view controller, I need an outlet to it. So back to the assistant editor, and I'm going to control drag. This time I'm going to do it from the document outline. And by the way, I need to go make sure I'm viewing the president cell. Okay, control drag from the label. We'll call this over here name label and make ourselves an outlet there. Now, in the master view controller, I should have access to a name label. And so I can say president cell dot name label dot text equals, and let's push this all in. And I don't really need the question mark because the outlet is an implicitly unwrapped optional. It's guaranteed if I have a president cell that there will be a name label. Okay. So now when we run this one, what does it look like? Up it comes, back to the master view controller, and then we see names that are layered on top of images. Okay, and that may or may not be what you'd like, but okay, so now this is how we do a collection view, one way to do a collection view. Another way we could do a collection view is you could come over here and go to the list view. Right here is a collection view controller. That's wired up with the delegate and data source predefined, and this would be analogous to the table view controller, where if we use this widget, then what we'd want is our master view controller would inherit from UI collection view instead of just inheriting from UI view. You see, what we've done is we've said, I want a UI view controller that has a collection view inside of it, and then we've wired up the delegate and data source ourselves and extended the class to implement those two protocols. Anyway, I hope this demo is helpful to you. Let me know if you have any questions, and good luck on finishing Project 1.